Hey everybody, welcome back. What I want to take a look at today is some more information that's available on the internet about how to build apps and just different approaches to building software and applications. And I came across this article by Design Rush that is a marketplace, it seems like. Right, this is the site, and this came out a little bit more recently than the stuff that I've been going over. I'm really interested in just kind of sharing the information that's out there about app development because it seems, the information is few and far between, and there's, not a lot of, I would say, consistency in what's expected as far as pricing and, which agencies to work with. I don't think there's a lot of guidelines for it. So if you're just, if you're just a regular person or founder with an app idea and you're thinking about building something, you're probably going to put things into Google that are going to lead to these search results, right? So I googled, building apps in 2022 just to see what came up, and this was one of the things. This was one of the sites that came up. So obviously this is ranking, and as somebody who is, if you are new to building software and applications, this would probably be one of the first things that you read. So I'm curious to see like if this is consistent with what I've come into also, in my experience building apps and building apps for people, how much of this lines up in this article. So I haven't read this yet. I've skimmed it, but I haven't read the whole thing. And I want to see. Let's take a look at this for just a little bit about the company. Seems like they're based in the U.S. and they're mostly B2B, which I think is a very underserved market, specifically in the bubble community and no code community. We like to think of, the that community as addressing a need for founders to create apps like in the startup sense, but there's so many applications in small businesses and just businesses in general to build software solutions to everyday problems. And honestly, that's where the budget is, right? If you're a freelancer or an agency, who's going to pay you? Who's going to have the bigger budget and be able to pay you more consistently? Probably somebody with a business that's looking to streamline either one of their processes, or they want to offer a automated version of their service to their customers. So I think this is an area that's pretty underserved. So I'm super curious about this company in particular, and what their approach to or what their guidance is to building apps in 2022. So let's get into it here. Research shows that there are over 3 billion smartphone users globally, and the number, oops, let me share. And that number only continues to increase. 3 billion smartphone users globally. So half, probably a little less than half the world's population. That's a pretty astounding number. Building an app on your own might have sounded like a pipe dream a couple of years ago, but so did building your own website. Now, custom web development is a piece of cake with custom web development platforms such as Velo by Wix. I don't think I've ever heard of Velo. Of course, I've heard of Wix, but I don't know what Velo is. Fast, easy, cutting edge. Right, so they do distinguish between a website and an app here. When you factor in the number of users on other mobile devices such as wearable technology or the over 1 billion tablet users globally, the value of a professional mobile app increases exponentially. A professional mobile app. Okay, so we're already specifying mobile app as opposed to a web application. Let's see where we go with that. But how can businesses learn how to develop an app that suits their business needs without breaking the bank, blowing their budget, or overhauling their entire revenue model? Right. So this is very clearly targeted towards businesses. Again, I think this is a very underserved market, in specifically in the no code community, where we are very much focused on founders and startup community as opposed to existing businesses, which I think is something we all should be taking seriously. We should be thinking about how to get into this B2B space. It turns out there are several best practices that the best software development companies adhere to when creating reliable mobile apps for clients such as yourself. So we're looking at this as the perspective of somebody who is looking for an agency to build their application for them. And like I said before, this is important because if you Google how to build an app in 2022 or just build an app, this is one of the first search results that comes up. So this is going to be your first impression, either as a business or a founder or whoever. If you're new to this, this area, this is going to be your first impression of what's going to happen. This may be one of the first articles that you read. Okay, by following these guidelines, developers are able to stretch budgets, keep projects within their projected timelines, and ensure the finished platform works properly and achieves the desired objective. Okay, so they're laying out a set of guidelines for how to approach this. Now, it may seem like businesses don't need to know these best practices. After all, you aren't the ones who will be actually designing and developing the mobile app. So what's the point? Okay, so speaking to the point of taking a technical interest in how your application is built, I love that they're addressing this here. Why should you know this? Why should you as the business, don't you just pay the money to a developer or an agency and they build the app for you? Maybe, but it's better if you have involved in some, and you hire a developer that wants you to be involved in the process. And ideally, you're getting in front of, like, what's the intention of the business building this app? Are they building it for their customers? Are they building it for their employees? Who are they building it for? So I think answering that question, the extent to which you can involve those people, the end users, that's also important. Can't just be like, oh, build this thing and then we'll show it to people eventually. No, this has to happen in tandem. Well, if you thought that, that's where you're wrong. Beautifully said. Understanding the process of how to develop an app that mobile app software developers follow throughout each software development lifecycle, particularly for mobile platforms, is crucial for businesses. This will empower you to choose the best partner for your company, choose a solution that fits within your budget, and better understanding of how your app development project is progressing. Yes, you want to be able to answer questions and take an active role in what's being developed for you and your company. If you're just completely blindly relying on your developer to build something for you and you don't really have any input until the end, you're probably not going to get something that you want, right? If you've got no input except in the beginning and at the end, that's a bad way for businesses or anybody to put blind trust in your developer or agency. Don't do that. Don't do that. You have to be involved and collaborate on what's important. Make sure that the priorities that you define as the client or as the person with the app idea, you need to define what the priorities are and communicate that to your development team. And when you understand a project's in and outs, you set yourself up for far better success in the long run. Very true. Okay, so let's skip this table of contents. How to develop an app in 10 steps. I love these. Developing a mobile app is a complex process. This new platform needs to reflect consistent brand identity, match your website and responsive mobile site, and encourage consumers to both download the application and convert within it. It may seem daunting to know where to begin. Okay, so let's talk about the brand identity. So this is a different case for whether or not I always say that you shouldn't be worried about logos and brand identity and all that, but these are existing businesses already. This is a little bit different than the context that I'm normally describing, where it's a founder with a brand new app idea, new to tech, new to software development, and they are worried about their logo right in the beginning. I think that is less important than discovering whether or not you're solving a problem for people. But in this case, the business is likely identified what problem they're solving for their customers already, because they're a business. They have traction, they have customers, and they're probably looking to either streamline some process up part of their business with a software solution, or they're looking to automate some of their automate some of the services that they're offering to clients, right? Just making a visual thing easier to access, as opposed to having like a manual service. So I think in those cases, yes, you should be thinking about how to brand this so this looks like my company's app. It definitely, it should be consistent, so that whoever the end user is understand that this is still your company, your app. Create a concept for your mobile app. The first step is to how to develop an app is determining the overall concept of your app. Ask yourself what objectives you want to reach and how the mobile app will help you do so. Yes, this will create a vision. I feel like you should have already done this, right? By the time you get here to this, to Googling how to build an app, you've probably thought about the concept. But it is important to ask yourself, why am I doing this? Is it just trendy to have an app as a business? Or is it actually something that will further your, your sales, your how you engage with your customers? Why are you doing this? Why are you making this investment? This will create a vision for the project and inform on the functionalities and design that will be needed to reach your business goal. Yes, inform on the functionalities and also help prioritize those functionalities, because it's likely that there's going to be a lot of functionality that you want to build. How do we in what order do we prioritize those functionalities? Determine how your app will make money. This may seem like a later step, but you should actually begin thinking about how your mobile app will make money pretty early on, as this will influence the user interface design. The most common ways to make money include in-app purchases and upgrades, a fully e-commerce app, pay to download, in-app advertisements from third parties. I don't have much to add to that. But they leave out subscription here. I think probably the most common one would be a subscription to whatever service that you're purchasing from this business. Maybe that's included in in-app purchases and upgrades or something. Understand the features that you need and the features that you want. Many businesses make the grave mistake of trying to cram too many features into their mobile app, especially in the first version. Oh, hallelujah. Someone agrees with me on this. Hallelujah. A better option would be to pare down the desired features into desired features and necessary features. Only include the necessary features in V1 of your app. Believe it or not, user feedback will let you know the other features that customers are looking for later. I can't, I'm not even going to say anything because I say this way too often and I feel like a broken record. But yes, this is true. Sketch the wireframe and the user journey. Yes. As an agency or a freelancer, there's nothing more that a client can do to set the right pace than to give you a design or a wireframe. It doesn't have to be fancy, just something that shows what you envision as your user flow. You can do that in a tool like Balsamiq, but it saves so much time for us having to do guesswork and trying to extract information that's in your brain. It may be very clear to you, but it's not clear in the documents or communication, in the written word. It's much easier to have that as a visual that we can evaluate and then ask questions to further our understanding. So yes, the wireframe is just such a it's so helpful to the developer team. With the help of other experts, such as digital strategists or an information architect, will create a wireframe and lay out the user journey that customers will take in order to complete the desired action. Design the user interface. I can't tell whether who is responsible for these. I think maybe this should be these paragraphs like be outlined of whose responsibility it's expected to complete this, like sketch the wireframe and user journey. Is that the responsibility of the agency? This site, Design Rush, is a marketplace for, development agencies, seems like SEO specialists, marketing people, and stuff like that. So whose responsibility is this? Still the founder or the person, the client, or the person with the app idea that's doing this, or is this explaining the process of app development? I'm not quite sure. Once the wireframe and customer journey are approved, an app designer will well, it says it right there. Maybe I should have read a little further before I said that. An app designer will design the user interface, adding graphics, colors, designs to create a compelling and well-branded experience. So this is kind of, I suppose, where the I think this is where the founder or the person with the app ideas responsibility stops. Like, they should probably have this before they start talking to the agency. They should have thought about this stuff already, and then getting into this, being able to give them, the agency, this is a good starting point. Because it shows that they've given some thought to what they want to build. They're not relying on the agency to tell them what they want. They've given some thought to what they want to, what the goal is for this. In other words, the designer will create a mock-up, a mid or high fidelity visualization of the product, probably on Figma, to be able to evaluate and the look and feel of the design. Additionally, mock-ups can help with creating the accessibility and visual consistency of the design, allowing designers to improve the design's appearance in terms of appearance, but also functionality. Our industry analyst determines the best mock-up tools on the market that designers use to convert their ideas into concept. They are the following. Now, this is arguable. I think some people prefer to look at it from a data standpoint, like describe to me in words what your app is going to do, so I can get an idea of what the data structure will look like, and then build a user interface around that data structure. That's a different approach. That's some people prefer to do it that way. So there isn't one single way to do this, but I think visually, and what would resonate with most non-technical people, is to have a wireframe or a wireframe or a mock-up to show what the user journey will be. Develop the app in a testing environment. After the mobile app is designed, the heavy lifting begins, meaning app developers begin coding the platform. Ooh, coding, okay. They should do this in a test environment so it can be tested throughout the entire development process. In addition, this stuff here leads me to believe that there is, they haven't really considered any of the no-code solutions to approaching app development here, because they say straight away begin coding, not developing, but coding the platform. So I have a feeling that there aren't very many, like, no-code is probably not being considered as a viable option in this marketplace. Maybe I'm wrong though, we'll see. In addition, app development firms will develop both front-end or forward-facing aspects of an app that their customers will interact with, as well as a back-end that allows team members to manage content. Database. When developing an app, it is advisable to keep your working files secure with a password management tool that not only contributes to a safer working environment, but also lets your collaborators access files remotely when they need them. Yeah, I guess, like, Google Drive or Box or anything like that will suffice. Testing QA, every feature and function within the app. All right, so I think we've already coded the app at this point. As we mentioned, every mobile app should be tested dozens, if not hundreds, of times throughout development. Yes, true, and I do agree that there should be some essence of quality control before the app is released to production. But I think that in reality, your users are going to find a lot of the bugs and problems in your app. Now, should you leave that for users to find? Probably not, but there is some component to, like, the best QA testers are not going to catch every edge case. So I always question whether, like, how much quality control or quality assurance work should be done before being put in the hands of real people to see how they actually use it and how they can actually break it. Now, this doesn't mean that it has to be a full release of the app, but I think the sooner you get it into people's hands to see what goes wrong, the more bugs you'll find and the more, efficient. Because if you spend a lot of time coding and in QA testing before you've shown anybody, as soon as as your users start using the app, they may be using it in a totally different way than you intended, and then you have to change things, which creates more bugs. So QA, it's questionable to me how much QA is done internally and how much is done with your users. That's the I think the fine line that I don't know if there's a right answer to it, but it's something that I always consider, and I tend to towards the putting in people's hands as opposed to spending too much time in your QA process. If they catch a bug within the test environment, developers will be able to fix it before the app is launched, ensuring that users are none the wiser. I don't really necessarily agree with this. I think the more I tend to think that you shouldn't have this launch is I don't know, the launch to me always seems like an event that is romanticized and should not be as big of a deal as people make it. These are some of the best app testing tools on the market that test app developers, ensure the quality of their products. Ooh, I've never heard of these. That's interesting. Lambda Test, Testigma. Make your app available for download on the applicable app stores. Once V1 of your app is completed, an app development agency will launch it in the applicable app stores so that users can begin downloading and using the app. The most popular are Apple App Store and Google Play. True, but you also may be dealing with a web application that you don't need to upload to the app stores. So it's not always, I think this is, when they say apps here, I'm pretty sure that they are speaking specifically about mobile applications, but I think a lot of people don't know the difference between, I think when you hear app, that could also just mean software that's web-based, right? Like Facebook is essentially a web app. There is a mobile app component to it, but you can also use it on desktop. Market the mobile application to your target demographic. Did you know that app stores allow companies to input photos, videos, and content that can help target appropriate audiences? Well, it's true. Luckily, reliable app design and app development firms will help business market their apps successfully. Interesting. Both on the app stores and on other platforms such as their website or social media channels. This is particularly imperative because 61% of users won't install a new app. That's true. And this is another reason why I think this statement right here, 61% of users won't install a new app on their phone. This is another reason why I hope that we go the way of web applications as opposed to continuing to build more and more mobile apps, because how many apps can you have on your phone? How many apps do you need on your phone? We have a lot already. How many more do we need? Plus, it will increase downloads and mean more revenue for you and more visibility within the app stores too. Okay. And finally, step 10, continually improve the app through feedback and updates. An important rule of thumb to remember is that app development is never truly done. Brilliant statement right here. All right, so whenever I get the question of how long is this going to take, or how long do you see building a platform like this, there's never a right answer for that. So if you're a founder and you're asking that question, know that you're asking the wrong question. It's never really done. It's never really done. How soon can you get it into people's hands? That depends on you. That depends on what you're comfortable putting in front of your users. Everyone has kind of a threshold for how early is too early, right? So that is going to greatly affect how long that you develop before you actually show it to users. I've shared my point many times where I think the faster you get into people's hands, The more you learn about the problem that you're solving, the better. Users will provide targeted feedback, customers will leave reviews in the app stores, bugs will occur, and organizations will want to add new features from time to time. All of these items mean that the new version of the app, whether it's a small fix or major update, needs to be developed and released to existing users in the app stores. So I suppose that the sensitivity here towards, if you're working with business, the sensitivity towards bugs and releasing too early is going to be a little bit higher, I think, than your standalone solopreneur with an app idea, because they do have a reputation that they want to uphold. So if they release a buggy app, they're going to be concerned for the reputation of their business. So it is a different mindset, right? There is a different standard of quality that they're going to expect from the app developer. So that is something that we need to keep in mind. Here we go. How much does it cost to build an app? All in all, it can be difficult to pinpoint how much it will cost to build an app. After all, the pricing is greatly affected by the timeline and deliverables, how many features and functionalities you might need, what action users will be allowed to take within the mobile app, and what long-term support you desire from your software development company. In general, organizations pay about $200,000 to $350,000 for a mobile app with several features. But don't let that price tag scare you. Why not? That's a scary price tag. 350. I mean, I suppose in the business context, that's not, for any individual, that's a lot of money, but for a business, I suppose that's, maybe what it's expected, but still, that's a huge amount. $300,000. If that's the quote that you get from the agency, that's, that it's at least enough to say, okay, I have to consider why I'm building this and what return on my investment I expect to get here. It's not exploratory, it seems. It's like, no, there's going to be a very clear investment here. There's going to be a very clear return that I expect. And if I don't meet that return, I'm going to look at this project like a failure. Now, it doesn't have to be this much, and you should not have to commit this much. In a traditional development agency, yes, this is going to be the price tag, especially if they're working B2B, because they need a team of developers to develop the app. They need a front-end developer. They need a designer. They need a back-end developer. They need somebody that knows how to work with APIs. They need there's a lot of different there's team members that are going to be needed in order to build a full stack application. That's not the case when you work with Bubble or when you work with a no-code tool. You can do all of this even at a small scale, and for a quarter of this, and you don't have to commit to this. The business doesn't have to commit to this up front if they're willing to understand that this is an exploratory thing that you're going to see if it's worth investing $200,000 to $350,000 in. You can start small, build a few features for a fraction of this cost, and see how your users react to it, and then build from there. So it can be a process. I like to think of it more as I like to think of app development as more of a experimental learning process, as opposed to this event that you map out from the beginning and understand that you're going to be paying upwards of $200,000. It just seems like the old way to do it. Extremely simple app development projects can dip into the lower 5 figures. 5 figures? 5 figures. Oh, thousands, yes. Meanwhile, extremely complex mobile apps, such as those with innovative AR, VR features or robust e-commerce shops, can skyrocket to 500,000 or more. Yeah, that's concerning for a business owner or somebody who's just exploring a new idea. They're going to think twice if they have to put in 500,000 just to see if they have a viable app idea. Just because the business has they have an existing business model and existing customers, that doesn't necessarily mean that the technology that they're going to build is going to solve the problem better. than than they're already doing. So I think it comes back to, why are you building this? And understand that building an app, building this application may be a mistake. It may not be the best thing. They may not. It may not be that you need an automated solution for this, or at least in the way that you're thinking about the problem. Maybe your problem is, a smaller subset of what your overall business does, and that's the part that they want to automate. But you're looking to another part of it. There's a lot of questions to be answered. So to invest 500,000 on a guess or a hunch just seems so the old way to do things. How do app developers charge for their services? Businesses can expect to pay hourly for results for mobile development. That's because app development requires a lot of timely active tasks, and those are more easily tracked and billed for by the hour. Mobile app software developers in the US tend to cost somewhere between 100 and 175 per person per hour, although of course that can fluctuate quite a bit depending on their expertise, location, and reputation. This is true. Now, and this is probably what your average, I don't know if your average bubbler would be charging 100 to 175, somewhere around there. But that's also per person. That's the key word here. There may be 6 people needed on this team. Whereas with Bubble, you're one person that does it all. You do the back end stuff, you do the front end stuff. Maybe you get a designer in there to help you out if you're not strong on design. But this is, in the traditional sense, this is probably going to be a 6-person team, and each person is going to have a rate that's somewhere in or around these numbers. So that's going to add up quickly. Outsourcing an app design and development project is another valid option, one that will save you big bucks during the software lifecycle. Isn't that what we were just talking about? What does that mean? Outsourcing an app design and development project is another valid option, one that will save you big bucks during the software lifecycle. Outsourcing software development companies that can build mobile apps generally charge between 50 and 75 per person per hour. I guess that means outsourcing to a different country. I'm not sure what they mean by this. Oh yeah, that must be what they mean. I mean, I kind of interpreted outsourcing to just be like you're not developing the app internally, but clearly they're using outsourcing here as a way to say that's somewhere broad. Both outsourcing and hiring a US-based app development are valid options that can deliver excellent results. However, the right direction depends solely on your particular needs. Take the time to understand each development firm's experience, case studies, offerings, and pricing structure. Yes. This will help you determine how much you'll need throughout the entire project and whether or not the agency can meet those requirements. See, the thing you can't do here with this type of engagement is start small. You can't start small. You can't say, okay, can you just maybe design the interface first? I want to see how we interact. Me talking, speaking from the perspective of the client now. I want to see how you and I interact and work together. In this, because there's 6 people on this team. You would have to be, like, do you have to know everybody? There's usually like a point person, probably like the product manager or something that you'd be interfacing with, and they take your specs and communicate that back to the rest of the development team. That's usually the way it goes with traditional agencies. But like you have to go. It's like you have to go all in. It's like I have to do this. I have to know everything that I can possibly give the development team. I have to have every idea mapped out from the beginning. I have to have the budget. I have to know that I can continue to pay when the deliverables are met, however they structure it. But there's just so much that needs to be done up front. Whereas I think in a newer, more agile way to approach app development is to say, hey, can we just start this? And, I have some general specs. The client will come with some general specifications that they want. We can see if we like each other first before we commit to a $500,000 engagement. Um, doesn't that seem like a better way to do this stuff? I feel like it is. I wouldn't want to commit $500,000 to somebody that I don't know. You can look, they can have all the profile, they can have all the portfolio and, great case studies and all of that, but that doesn't mean that they're going to work well with you. So I don't know. I have to think that there's a better way to do this. And remember, paying more money up front will usually save you thousands of dollars, if not more, in the long run. What? I don't know. Was that true? Paying more money up front will usually save you more. Yeah, I don't agree with that. Paying more money up front doesn't necessarily save you money in the long term. It may. I think what they're trying to say here is like, don't be cheap when you hire a developer, which I agree with. You don't necessarily have to go low end with who you hire, but I don't necessarily agree with if you put more money up front, it's going to save you in the long term. It may not though. This is because if you end up with a better project that needs less long-term maintenance and fewer updates over time. Again, that's very questionable. How long does it take to build an app? Much like the cost of a mobile app development project is hard to pinpoint, so is the timeline. Yes, this is something that we can all agree on. Every founder, every developer, every freelancer, every product manager, it's extremely difficult to pinpoint how long something is going to take and how much it's going to cost because your specs will change. This is so dependent on the business's personalized needs. Yes, and those needs will change as you learn more about your users and how they're engaging with your application. When do they need the app live by? What is their budget? How many features do they need the app to have? Part of the agency's responsibility, in my opinion, is to whittle these things down, is to make the client realize that they don't need to have every single feature in the beginning. They're going to want them. In most cases, they're going to want 6 features right off the bat, 6 major features. I think your job as the agency is to whittle that down to the absolute bare minimum. What can we do that's going to get this into people's hands in a responsible way as soon as possible? How can we do this the quickest but securest way? And that usually involves talking the client out of some lower priority features that they don't really need, but they want. And that comes through asking smart questions from the developer side. You have to ask questions and you have to take an interest in the client's business to understand where they're coming from and help them determine what the priorities are, because a lot of times the clients themselves really don't know. Typical software development projects take 9 to 12 months to complete at least, and businesses who are investing in developing mobile apps should allocate the same amount of time on average. However, there are a few items that can affect how long it takes to build these apps. That include 9 to 12 months. Okay, so again, this is very much looking at this from the perspective of traditional coding with a team. 9 to 12 months might be a very realistic timeline for an app that is, hand coded by a team. That may very well be the timeline, but to the thought of having to wait 9 months before you're getting any feedback from people and to know whether or not this idea was even worth the money and the time invested into it is crazy to me. There's no reason to do it that way anymore. there's a good chance that you'll be able to build whatever you need here on Bubble and save for again a fraction of the cost. Now, I'm not going to say that it's going to be faster and easier necessarily in Bubble. The development process still needs to run its course. You still have to use all the same QA principles. Yes, all of that is true. But if it takes 9 months to get in front of somebody, that's surprising. That would be that. I think that would be more a function of building in the silo, and holding back from releasing it to your users, as opposed to, okay, this is not ready for people. That's more of a psychological blocker than it is like, oh, this is going to take 9 to 12 months to develop before we can show anybody. That's too long. That's too long. You've been developing for too long. The various app versions and their features. Most mobile apps have several versions throughout their entire life. If a business is willing to lessen the number of features they want in their first version and simply add them in a later version, they could speed up the development process. Yes, that is true. A bigger budget may mean faster development time. Brands with more money to spend can afford more designers, developers, and hours that an agency spends on the project. Therefore, a larger budget typically speeds up the app development projects noticeably. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. I think that having too many hands in the app development process actually slows things down because you're spending more time on communicating with one another. And in that lack of communication, you step on each other and you mess each other's stuff up. So I don't know if just throwing more developers at a problem necessarily means it's going to go faster. If they have a really efficient process for working together, maybe. But more money and more developers doesn't mean better results and faster time necessarily. Does the agency also need to design the app? Most organizations utilize the same app design and development agency to, well, design and develop their app. Thus, if your app needs to be conceptually wireframed and designed before it is actually coded, the timeline may increase by a bit. Yeah, that's true. That's true. I think, hopefully that the agency that you work with has a designer on their team. That's something that I would ask specifically. Do you have a design resource? Because developers and designers are not the same thing. Designer has a very unique skill set, and they just have a different way about thinking of the how the page is laid out, and how the functionality, how the design around functionality so that it's easier for users to understand. I always like to think of it like, if you can put this app, if you put the app in front of somebody and it needs explanation, the designer did not do a good job. So if I design something and then I put it in front of users and they're confused, I did bad. I did a bad job, because you should just be able to put it in front of them and they know intuitively what to do. So that could, certainly slow down but like that's part of the process. 3 reasons why app developers need a project management tool. This is interesting. So this is kind of shifting the focus from the client to the app developers now. You've probably heard the phrase that building an app is like building a house. I have said that before, I think. I have made that comparison. The saying goes that because there's so many small tasks to manage to complete the whole app development project. However, overlooking or forgetting even a single small task can affect the app's functionality and project delivery. Very true. This is where project management tools can come in handy. They carry multiple benefits for developers, including categorizing complex tasks. Most app development projects require detailed planning. However, this can be quite complex and time-consuming process. Using project management software can make all the difference. These tools usually have columns for different projects where developers can create various tasks. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I suppose all this is true. Monday, Freshworks, Wrike. I've used Monday and ClickUp. I've never heard of these two. Well, you definitely need something. And you definitely need an easy way to communicate with the client too, so that they know when their input is needed. Having their input in throughout the process, I think, is very important. So you make sure that you're on the right track. You're not developing the wrong stuff due to a misunderstanding. Although most mobile app software development companies are well versed in creating applications for both Apple and Android, those development processes do look different. Therefore, it is in every organization's best interest to understand how to develop apps for both iOS and Android operating systems so they can be sure to select the best development partner and release a successful product to the product. So again, we're talking specifically about mobile apps here, not web apps. iOS app development companies speak with each other. Speak with her, Objective-C, or Swift, which are two different programming languages, although they are compatible with one another. Objective-C, I've never heard of that. I've heard of Swift, never heard of Objective-C. Both programming languages are most exclusively used by Apple, although they are scannable within Apple products, which is why Apple items have such strong inter-device cohesion. They don't operate from the outside Apple realm. Wow. So, this goes to show why traditional development is so expensive. You have to know both of these programming languages, and that's just one side of things. That's just Apple. That's just iOS. So you need somebody that knows Objective-C and or Swift, and that's just for the iOS side. Of course, it's going to be more expensive. This is so many different skill sets that you need. Apple mobile applications have a few notable qualities. Sharper, better animations, a faster testing QA process, which leads to quicker market release, a more secure operating system. Very true. And Apple also goes through a more robust process for reviewing their apps than any of the Android, Google stuff does. They're pretty quick to reject you if something looks off to them. And they actually do test your app. I was just helping somebody yesterday who submitted their mobile app through BDK, and it got rejected for a something. Hey, Jan. For what was it? I think having the privacy policy, or there was a couple of things. There was not having a privacy policy, and something about the transition between pages, which I had never seen before. That I thought was pretty interesting. So Apple is testing their the apps when you submit them to the App Store, and they're not just doing a quick review. They're actually testing to see whether the functionality works. They're timing the transitions between pages, so they're definitely a little bit more picky than Google is. I don't think Google does all this stuff. But I think we figured out. Hopefully, I got to follow up with him. But hopefully, he got his thing approved. And honestly, even if you do get rejected from the Apple App Store, it's not the end of the world. Like, you're gonna have to kind of dance around and just jump through the hoops that they want you to. But just because they reject you once doesn't mean that you can't keep resubmitting it until they accept you. And honestly, it's weird. Like, they're a little bit inconsistent with the thoroughness of their reviews sometimes. Like, I've got an app that went right through, like, in a matter of minutes, which I can't imagine they did that thorough review. And then I've had an app that got rejected like 9 times. Not that much. I'm exaggerating. Maybe like 4 or 5 times. But I still had to, make whatever changes that they asked for. Android app development companies use the Java programming languages to build their app. The computer programming language is very flexible and scalable, which allow designers to create a consistent brand identity on a variety of platforms. Java. I don't know. Definitely don't know Java. But just because Apple is newer and flashier doesn't mean that they have all the winning qualities. Android mobile applications excel in many areas, including stronger user experience, lower development costs than iOS, lower Google Play Store fees. Oh, here you go. Want to save on cost and build an app yourself? Check these robust platforms for building cross-platform applications. API, Shoutum, Excite, Penguins App Builders. These seem like no code or low code solutions. I've heard of AppyPie. I don't think I've ever heard of these. Swiftific. Astronaut me. What plugins do I recommend on Bubble for iOS push notifications, and how have you created your privacy policy and terms and conditions? Good question. So the only plugin that I use for mobile native stuff is BDK native, and I'll take you through that if you're interested. So if you have, let's go to BDK. So basically what you do here is you install the BDK plugin into your Bubble application, and that enables you to build mobile native features into your workflows. For example, you would say, when the user clicks sign up, I want them to also get a push notification for one functionality or another, maybe to confirm their email address or confirm through text message or something like that. And you build that right into the workflow. So as soon as you install the BDK plugin, which I think is like $16, you then have all these different actions through that plugin that pertain to a specific mobile native feature. So that is like, it's not that bad. You can deep link also, which I thought was pretty cool with the push notifications. You can deep link back to a specific page and view in the app, which I think is very has a very mobile native feel to it, right? We all want those push notifications. You do have to integrate with a service called OneSignal, and this is all kind of outlined. I don't know how detailed you want me to get, but it's all outlined in the BDK instructions on what to do. And then once you have all of the mobile native functionality built into the app, into your Bubble app, that's when you send that to BDK, and they build what's called an APK for you. It's basically like the software package that they're going to upload into the Play stores so that people can download your app from the app stores. So it's a pretty seamless process. I know people sometimes get turned off by the price tag. It's like $300 for both iOS and Android. But think of the time that you're saving. If I'm looking at this article, right, like all of these different things that you would need to know, Objective-C, Swift, Java, all those different skill sets that I would need to have in order to build an app, in the traditional sense there. If you look at that, $300 is like nothing, Hopefully that answered your question. All right, yeah, I've seen BDK all around the Bubble Forum TV. Yeah, it's the best one. I think it's the best one in my opinion. I've also tried to build, or I shouldn't say I tried. I did put out tutorials for how to build your own APKs, but in my opinion, BDK's got that so streamlined at this point that it's just worth them to pay them the money. It's not worth it to learn. Sure, and do you still retain the rights to your app? I'm thinking about using them as well to wrap my app instead of JSON-L, which I'm currently following you. Oh, okay, yeah, you did find my tutorial. Yeah, there's a couple of things about JSON-L. Like that's a pretty, that tutorial is, I want to say, like 2 years old, I think. I uploaded that in 2020. And JSON-L, they haven't updated that at all since we've made that tutorial. So there's a few dependencies there that I don't know hold up. You definitely still retain the rights to your app, right? There's nothing, you're not giving away any, any portion of your app by using JSONet or, the mobile wrapping process, or even with BDK. They're just basically doing what you're doing in Android Studio and Xcode right now. What you're doing, BDK does that for you. And they also have figured out how to add the other mobile native components to it, like push notifications, probably something that you're going to integrate. I never figured out how to do that myself, right, in JSON-L or in Android Studio, which is why I recommend that people go to BDK for that stuff, because there's just so much more to it than I was able to figure out with that tutorial. But yeah, there's no one's taking the rights to your app or anything like that. All right, let's see what else they're saying here. Go ahead and drop any other questions you have into the chat. Happy to answer them to the best of my ability here. I'm just going to see what they say about. I'm a little curious about what they say about the Google side of this. The Java, the computer programming language, is very flexible and scalable, which allows designers to create consistent brand identity on a variety of platforms. But just because Apple is newer and flashier. Oh wait, I already read that part. Sorry. How Design Rush Marketplace can help develop your app. So like I said, Design Rush is a marketplace for what looks to me like businesses who are interested in building an app. This article is very clearly targeted towards businesses, which I think is something that we as Bubble developers and freelancers and agencies should be targeting a little bit more, as opposed to individual founders, because there's a huge market here. There are businesses that don't even know. Bubble's not even listed here in this, right? And this is probably like I want to probably 90% of the apps that these businesses will come up with probably can be built on Bubble. So there is definitely room here to expand into another market, and by that I mean small and mid-sized businesses. If your company is looking to develop a mobile app, we can find the right agency for you. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much that app. Ooh, look at all these different articles. So I guess all in all, to sum up this article, like I said, I'm looking at this stuff because I want to see what the content is that people find when they just start Googling how to build an app, like that first impression that they get. And this is the first stuff that comes up. This is what's ranking. So if I just Google let's see what comes up. How to build an app. I think that's how I found this. Salesforce, easily build your app, no coding necessary. Google App Engine. What the hell is Google App Engine? Easy to code and deploy apps. Microsoft Azure. Need to build an app. App development for startup and Alright, so this is what people are doing. If you've never heard of Bubble and you've never heard of no code, and you just type in how to build an app, which I guarantee is what a lot of people are doing. That's what I did, I'm sure, back in 2017 when I had an app idea before I heard of anything Bubble related. These are the first things that are going to come up. I think is this Mike Iota? He's a no code guy. I'm not sure who that is. Design Rush, that's the one that I found. AppyPie. So there isn't, if you're just getting started, there isn't a lot of like funnels that are going to necessarily take you to Bubble or these, the agencies that would be building with no code solutions. And that's kind of my point here. Like, I really want to just start getting in front of the content that's out there around building apps to newer companies and just people that aren't aware of that these solutions are even an option, that they think it's going to cost them $150,000 to $200,000 to build an app, and that it's going to take 9 to 12 months to do it. It's just that awareness I still don't think has really hit the mainstream. It's obvious to us because we've been working in bubble for so long now, and we keep talking to each other about this. But we're a relatively small niche group of people that are very enthusiastic about the future of this space, and we don't realize that not everybody knows about it yet, right? So I think that's where I'm trying to go with this. Jan, really appreciate the answers. Thanks. I'm about to finish my app on the mobile side and planning to wrap iOS. Yeah, I do. I do. Jan, so I've been trying to do these every day, to be honest. Um, I'm trying to do these live streams 5 days a week. I'm mostly streaming at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I've been doing it in the nighttime, but I can't do it tonight, so I actually did it a little bit earlier. And I think that that's probably a good idea for to do this a little bit earlier on some days, like maybe Tuesdays and Thursdays at like 1 p.m. Eastern, because that means that there's a whole group of people in like I'm not sure where you're based, but there's a lot of people that I wanted to bring on to the live stream that are based in Europe, and it's like that's it's like 1 o'clock in the morning for them there at 7 p.m. Eastern. So I was actually thinking about doing this a little bit, like doing maybe 2 days a week at 1 p.m. Eastern and 2 days a week at 7 p.m. Eastern. But yeah, I mean, uh, let me know if the if you think that'll be helpful to do this a little bit earlier, then that's what I'll probably do. There's a whole world out there, right? Like I'd love to be in more contact with the people in Australia too. Yeah, Europe. Got you. Okay, no problem, man. So I think I'm gonna do maybe I'll do Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1 p.m. and Mondays and Wednesdays at 7, and I'll figure out what to do on Friday. But that's good feedback. Glad to hear you're tuning in from Europe. All right, everybody. I'm gonna check out for today. I'll be back tomorrow. Actually, I'm gonna be back tomorrow at the same time. Tomorrow I have another thing that I can't do at night, so I'll be back here same time, 1 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow, which I imagine is 7 p.m. Central Europe time. Europe. That's not Central Europe time. CEST. I forget what that stands for. I got a team in Poland that I work with, and they're always 6 hours ahead of me. So I guess that's 7 p.m. your time. All right. Glad it was helpful. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.